as a Black person, you're still expected to like carry on business as usual, even though Black people are being killed all around you. So even though you're dealing with this trauma of watching like people who look like you be murdered, you're protesting, you're crying, you're doing all these things, you're still expected to function. You're still expected to go to school. You're expected to take your finals. You're expected to go to work.
A sip of E&J.
Hey you guys, welcome back. This video, I guess it's a little bit more serious because the category for today is most impactful. So this is a hard category just because I intend for all my work or all my art to be impactful. So I intend for it to either, make you think or make you laugh or make you feel. But the point is for you to be impacted somehow. So I do think all of my videos, poems, raps are impactful. But if I had to choose the most impactful one, I would have to go with the Black Lives Matter poem. I wrote this poem in 2015. So I think the year Michael Brown was killed. And I think the fact that I wrote this 5 years ago, but that it was so relevant and it could have been like I wrote it this year is actually really sad, to be honest. It just shows that things haven't really changed. But I actually wrote this poem as part of a final for law school. I submitted in poetry anthology. And I actually think that anthology was kind of like the birth of Sunday Sips. Some of the poems from that anthology are also part of Sunday Sips, but it was like the first time I put together like a body of work, a body of complete work, and submitted it somewhere. So that was the birthplace of Sunday Sips. But I remember writing this poem in the midst of finals. We were protesting, so writing this in between protests and just kind of just writing how I felt. It was like therapeutic. It was me just laying it all out there because as a Black person, you're still expected to like carry on business as usual, even though Black people are being killed all around you. So even though you're dealing with this trauma of watching like people who look like you be murdered, you're protesting, you're crying, you're doing all these things, you're still expected to function. You're still expected to go to school. You're expected to take your finals. You're expected to go to work. So being able to have this poetry anthology as one of my finals was therapeutic, and it allowed me to write this poem. I also performed this poem at a pageant. I did the Miss Nigeria in America pageant in 2015 in Atlanta. And this was my talent. And I planned to do this poem, but the day of the pageant, I was freaking out. I remember I called Obi, who actually came and watched me in the pageant, and I was like, should I change poems? Should I do a different poem? I was worried that this would be too radical, even though it was Nigerian people. I don't know. I was worried that it'd be too radical, but I think through that conversation, we touched on the reason I wrote the poem, and I felt like it needed to be heard. And ultimately, I decided to perform it, and ultimately got a standing ovation. So I'm really glad that I did because it was such an emotional and personal poem for me. And I wasn't intending to release it on Sunday Sips when I did, but it was in the midst of all the protests and I couldn't focus on anything else, and it just felt like this was the proper time. I had originally planned to like film a visual for it, but with the pandemic and the move, everything like changed. So a huge part of me was worried because I would say this is one of my favorite poems that I've written. And I was worried that if I didn't get to use like the visual idea that I so carefully thought out, that I wouldn't be doing the poem justice. But I ended up using the clippings from like news that was happening at the time, and it's actually funny because I can't imagine it any other way. I think the news clippings added an additional layer because it made it feel urgent. It's like this is what is happening right now. And I think that the news clippings actually adds to the poem. So even though it's not what I had originally planned for the visual, I'm actually glad that's how it turned out. This is definitely one of the poems that I can rewatch. And when I do rewatch it, I can definitely feel like the pain and the hurt that I felt when I was writing it. I can feel it like the pain and hurt that I felt when I performed it. It's definitely packed with a lot of emotion. And I think it's an important message because it's our reality. And so if I had to pick the most impactful or the poem that I think is most impactful that I created this year, I would say it's Black Lives Matter. And if you haven't seen it, you can check it out now. These emotions are racing through my body at a speed faster than my mind can process. I am numb. I'm losing the feeling in my hands from holding up the signs painted with the blood spilled on the concrete. I'm losing the feeling in my feet from marching to the beat of baton-beating black bodies. I'm losing the feeling in my voice from screaming Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter!
We're losing. It's so weird because the walls of my law school classrooms are covered with the symbols of justice, signs of equality, yet the concrete stain with the black blood left to boil in the sun for 4.5 hours paints a different picture. As I try to study for law school finals, I always think about how people always say that law school is hard. But I don't think they factored in protesting for basic human rights, fighting to stay alive long enough to even take your finals. Studying for an exam in a room padded by privilege and security is easy. Being black is the hard part. They're leading us into red, white, blue stained concentration camps, whispering in our ears that it's for the sake of justice, while having the same justice stained gases take our bodies. It's no coincidence that the flag only contains 3 colors, none of which are black. We were never meant to be wrapped in the protections of this country. It only covers the white faces, hidden behind the red and blue. They are suffocating us with the laws and institutions of this country. They are choking us with the flag, to the point where the only words that we can muster out are, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. My body's rejecting what our institutions have been force-feeding us since birth. The truth of who this country was designed to protect is streaming down my cheeks and leaving revolution-stained thoughts on my chest, but I still feel hopeless. I feel useless. I keep telling myself with criminal law I can make a change, but no law can reverse the racist bullet shot and breathe breath back into the fallen soldiers. No law can tell the people who sit on that grand jury and hold the potential of justice on their tongue to spit it out if their mouths are filled with the lies these officers have been telling us. I just don't understand. Mr. Officer, who told you that your life was worth more than mine? I know that when you woke up this morning and kissed your wife on the forehead, you hoped that you come home to see your family. Mr. Officer, I have that same hope. I'm no different than you. When a bullet enters my chest and quiets my heart, I bleed. When my body lays lifeless in the street, frying in the sun, my family mourns. And when my murder is televised and my killers go free, my spirit doesn't rest. We are stuck in the revolving door leading us into the morgue, covered with black tears to cover the black bodies you've slain. You treat this as a game, cheating black body for target practice because you realize that moving targets are just too hard. So with our hands up, pleading, begging, screaming, don't shoot! You took this as a sure shot. I'm mad. I'm mad because I almost let you convince me that this is the way it has to be. And that I must take this, laying down, hands tied, mouth closed, as you forcefully insert your power, ripping away at the most precious part of me. My hope. But even when I feel hopeless, even when I feel tired, I'll keep on because I can hear my neighbors crying, I can't breathe. Now I'm in the struggle, and I can't leave. Calling out the violence of the racist police. Stop till people are free. We ain't gonna stop till people are free.
Ashe, Ashe.
If I know that in this hotel room they have food every day, and I'm knocking on the door every day to eat, and they open the door, let me see the party, let me see like them throwing salami all over just like throwing food around. But they're telling me there's no food in here. You know what I'm saying? Every day. I'm standing outside trying to sing my way in. You know what I'm saying? We are hungry, please let us in. We are hungry, please let us in. After about a week, that song is gonna change to we hungry, we need some food. After 2-3 weeks, it's like, you know, give me all the food, breaking out the door. And after a year, then you just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm picking the lock, coming through the door, blasting, you know what I'm saying? It's like you hungry, you reached your level, you don't want any more. We asked 10 years ago. We was asking with the Panthers. We was asking with them, you know, with civil rights movement. We was asking, you know, now those people that were asking, they're all dead and in jail. So now what do you think we're gonna do? Ask?